Welcome to a sacred space where the divine light illuminates every heart and mind. Chosen spirit, each slammed door, every tangled word, and all the times you heard, "You're too intense," have been quietly shaping your journey. They misread your boldness as conceit when in truth it was pure purpose. They saw your zeal as overload when it was simply genuine. In fact, the very contours of your destiny, too grand for their limited view, set you apart and made solitude your companion. Profound truths kindle a fire in your heart, while empty small talk drains every spark of vitality. This isn't happenstance, but the grand design of the cosmos. Your inner vibration has been fine-tuned for a purpose far beyond the dull hum of everyday banter. Honed through each awkward interaction, every moment you felt estranged from those around you, and every piercing episode of solitude, to ensure you stand out rather than fade into the background. There's a spark in their stare that isn't flattery, but a silent nod to your realness. Even if they've forgotten what sincerity feels like, they instinctively recognize it when they see it. They observe someone moving through life unshaken by others' expectations, neither hunting for applause nor fishing for validation, refusing to dim their own glow, just to blend into someone else's shadows. This realization simultaneously frightens and attracts them, resulting in the push-pull dynamic that has likely perplexed you for years. This is where things become more sinister, though, and you need to strengthen your comprehension. They want to analyze you, not simply be close to you. They observe your demeanor, examine your speech patterns, and commit your reactions to various scenarios to memory. They are attempting to reverse engineer the source code of your unwavering inner serenity while performing spiritual reconnaissance. You've undoubtedly observed how they listen intently to everything you say in conversations, not because they're truly curious about what you think, but rather because they're looking for the magic recipe that they think would change their own meaningless lives. Something significant about the spiritual malnutrition afflicting our generation is revealed by this fixation. They have spent so much time consuming artificial feelings, shallow relationships, and algorithmic validation that meeting someone who truly connects with them seems like finding water in a desert. They only know that being near you satisfies a desire they were unaware they had. They have no idea what they're desiring. Some people become nearly addicted to vying for your attention because your presence nourishes areas of their souls that have been deteriorating due to neglect. This is what your understanding is going to reveal. Your divine assignment was validated by everyone who attempted to change you, possess you, or convince you that you were too intense. The universe has strengthened the very characteristics you will need for what lies ahead through the very resistance you have faced. Every rejection served as a guide. Every miscommunication served as a safeguard. Every lonely night served as training for the enormous duty of bringing light into a society that has become accustomed to darkness. Yellow heart if you feel the divine love. Now is the time to share. Click the super thank you button on YouTube to contribute $50 or more and help us spread God's blessings. What you do is being watched and serves as a seed, and in the future it will come back to you a millionfold. It's not just chance that people are drawn to you. It's spiritual recognition. Their DNA contains an old memory of what wholeness looks like. When they're close to you, even if their conscious mind has forgotten, latent aspects of their soul start to awaken. Long-buried dreams start to resurface. Forgotten goals start to throb with vitality once more. This is the reason why some individuals feel compelled to destroy your presence, while others grow infatuated with it. Their potential and their abdication of it are both reflected in your very being. Most chosen ones are unaware that you're upsetting entire systems, rather than just triggering certain people. Your refusal to engage in dysfunction reveals the weakness of systems based on deceit, manipulation, and spiritual indolence. The entire toxic atmosphere feels unstable when you enter a company and refrain from gossiping. Everyone's meticulously crafted facades start to fall apart when you enter a social circle and refuse to engage in the competitive comparison game. The entire dysfunctional ecology begins to sway when you attend a family event and refuse to allow generational trauma patterns. Because of this, Your presence alone has the power to clear spaces, break friendships, and generate unforeseen professional challenges. You're just being true to who you are. You're not acting hostilely or confrontationally. But for institutions that rely on everyone agreeing to act, pretend, and maintain illusions, authenticity is the death knell. In addition to illuminating the truth, your light also creates shadows that expose what individuals have been concealing from one another and from themselves. The most perilous revelation for people around you is that they will have no justification for their own concessions if you can live this way with honesty, boundaries, and true self-respect. Your presence discredits all victim narratives, settlement arguments, and self-justifications for settling for less than what they are due. They are unable to argue against or defend themselves because this confrontation takes place without you speaking a word. Knowing this dynamic will change the way you view every odd encounter you've ever had. That person who studied every move you made and then abruptly stopped talking to you because they couldn't handle the confrontation, because they saw their own unrealized greatness reflected in your confidence. The friend who suddenly became competitive and began to undermine you because your growth revealed their stagnation, and they chose to pull you down to their level rather than rise to meet you. The romantic partner who was captivated by your depth, but later complained that you were too complicated because they wanted access to your inner world without having to earn it. You have learned the same basic lesson from each of these experiences. You are a force to be reckoned with, not a commodity to be devoured. It is a sign of spiritual immaturity when someone approaches you with transactional energy, attempting to take your power, wisdom, or peace without providing anything of equal value in return. Instead of seeing you as a sovereign being with a holy mission of your own, they view you as a resource. If you give a thank you gift of $75, it will be the first drop of rain that falls right in the center of a thirsty heart. The realization that you've been acting with a scarcity mentality, trying to prove your value to people who weren't qualified to judge it. The knowledge that you've been shrinking to fit into spaces that weren't meant to hold your magnitude. And the realization that each time you compromise your truth to make others feel more at ease, you were truly betraying the divine assignment that runs through your veins should all be stoked by this revelation. This is the point at which everything changes. The distinction between the chosen and the just different. The majority of misunderstood people live their entire lives looking to the people who rejected them for approval. They strive to prove they were deserving all along in an attempt to win the acceptance of people who have wronged them. It's spiritual suicide. It was never intended for you to persuade anyone of your worth. Rather, you were supposed to be so unquestionably genuine that the right people would identify you straight away, and the wrong people would distance themselves from you. The change occurs when you stop trying to fit in and begin to trust that you're following a blueprint that most others can't even see. You have access to frequencies of wisdom that cannot be learned from books or taken from others, because your internal compass has been calibrated by events that would have destroyed weaker souls. This insight was created in the furnace of lived reality, so it doesn't require confirmation from outside sources. Something significant happens in your energy field when you finally accept this understanding. The desperate edge leaves your interactions. You no longer feel the need to defend, justify, or explain your decisions, and you start to move through the world with the calm assurance of someone who knows exactly why they are here and doesn't feel guilty about taking up space. Everyone in your immediate vicinity can see this alteration, even if they are unable to explain it. The loneliness you experienced was proof of your uniqueness rather than your incompetence. Diamonds are buried deep, created under extreme pressure, and remain concealed until someone with the correct equipment and understanding realizes their value. They are not found strewn all over the earth for anyone to pick up. Being alone has protected you from being mistreated by others who would take your genius for ordinary stone. Now, however, something is changing. The frequency of your sincerity is reaching the very people who have spent their entire lives looking for someone just like you. Not those who wish to alter or exploit you, but those who value and respect you. Those who have been working within themselves and are able to stand in your brilliance without feeling overpowered. those who wish to see the full manifestation of your divine purpose, rather than those who are afraid of it. The laws governing this attraction are beyond human comprehension. You start to operate at a frequency that attracts those who would amplify you and repels those who would drain you when you stop justifying your decisions, apologizing for your intensity, and explaining your boundaries to people who weren't supposed to comprehend them. In order to connect you with other souls that function at your level of consciousness, the universe has been waiting for you to cease playing little. Every moment you spend trying to convince someone of your value is energy taken away from your true purpose. Every conversation in which you have to explain why you deserve basic respect is a conversation with someone who has already shown their spiritual immaturity. And every relationship in which you feel like you're performing rather than just being is one that actively works against your divine assignment. These are the exact and unforgiving mathematics of the spiritual law. Dove, brother and sister, everything done in faith is returned in God's abundance. You can donate $100 using the Super Thank You button and be part of this divine call. If your roots are connected to Him, your fruit will be blessed. Everyone who would weaken your resolve, lower your standards, or deplete your energy is physically eliminated by the cosmos. What appears to be rejection is actually redirection. What feels like abandonment is actually protection. And the emptiness you feel isn't a sign that you're unlovable, but rather that you're getting ready for relationships that resonate with you. Something important grows inside you during these times of seclusion, the capacity to be totally satisfied with your own company. This is spiritual sovereignty, not merely self-sufficiency. You are untouchable by deception techniques that work on everyone else when you are able to sit in solitude with yourself and feel truly fulfilled. When you no longer need constant companionship to feel worthwhile, and when you no longer need external validation to feel entire. The opposition you encountered has been shaping you into a person who is difficult to control, influence, or divert from your mission. You learn discernment from every betrayal, self-reliance from every rejection, and the distinction between loneliness and solitude from every moment of solitude. These were requirements for the degree of influence you're about to assume, not penalties. Most people project their insecurities onto those around them because they are still dealing with unhealed wounds. They fabricate conflict to feel connected, confusion to feel alive, and drama to feel significant. Your refusal to engage in these unhealthy behaviors reveals them for what they are: frantic attempts to satisfy needs that can only be satisfied internally. Their confusion is challenged by your clarity. Their performance is confronted by your genuineness, and their disorder is threatened by your serenity. The fact that many people are functioning from dysfunction without even realizing it adds to the complexity of this dynamic. They honestly think that their disorderly way of life is typical. They struggle with authenticity and have been conditioned to associate drama with depth and intensity with passion. Their worldview is so thoroughly upended when they come across someone who has truly discovered peace, who feels joy, who lives from a place of authentic contentment, that they frequently react with animosity instead of interest. They'll accuse you of being fake, saying that no one is truly that calm or content. They'll say you're naive, saying that life should be a never-ending battle. Or they'll say you're privileged, assuming that your inner peace must come from outside circumstances rather than from your own efforts. These charges speak more about their own spiritual deprivation than your personality. However, being aware of this pattern enables you to spot projecting instead of actual connection. The most pernicious manifestation of this animosity is when someone tries to drag you back into dysfunction by fabricating crises that demand your attention. They may fabricate crises, exaggerate small issues into significant dramas, or suddenly develop pressing needs that force you to cross boundaries and come to their aid. This is spiritual manipulation masquerading as need, and staying in alignment depends on your capacity to identify and thwart these strategies. They are attempting to decipher your tranquility, reverse engineer your confidence, and duplicate your captivating presence, which is why they study you so carefully while pretending they don't give a damn. However, because these attributes were created in the furnace of tribulations, that would have broken weaker souls. They cannot be replicated. You came to know unquestionable facts about who you are and why you are here. These facts served as the cornerstone of an invincible inner strength. Those who have never been willing to delve into their own depths are intimidated by the depth of your character. They are forced to face their own avoidance tendencies by your readiness to sit with painful feelings, face hard realities, and choose progress over comfort. They are forced to face their own dependencies because you won't numb yourself with drugs, distractions, or poisonous relationships. They are forced to confront their own wounds by your dedication to healing. Some will rise to the occasion, motivated by your example to start their own transformational path. These are the people who will earn your trust and turn into true friends, partners, and allies. Others, however, will pick anger over accountability, criticism over inquiry, and devastation over progress. They will try to persuade you that your expectations are unrealistic, your boundaries are too strict, and your standards are too high. Their views show more about their limitations than your personality. They are actually expressing that their capacity is too tiny when they tell you that you are too much. They are transferring their own feelings of inadequacy when they accuse you of believing you are superior to everyone else. They're confessing that they don't know how to love someone who won't devalue themselves for their own comfort when they say you're hard to love. By rendering you incompatible with anyone who would ask you to compromise your true nature, the world has been shielding you from these confining connections. A gift of $30 is a contemporary echo of Christ's compassion in feeding the hungry. The more you give, the more God multiplies. Every situation where you felt like you were wearing a mask, every relationship that required you to play a part rather than just be yourself, and every connection that felt forced was the universe's way of letting you know what you shouldn't accept. Being sensitive to inauthenticity is a strength, not a weakness. The spiritual technology that enables you to navigate a world full of people who have forgotten who they really are includes your ability to recognize deception, your discomfort with superficiality, and your longing for genuine connection. You are selectively social, not antisocial. You're discerning, not challenging. Trumpers are out. This discernment works similarly to an advanced radar system, picking up frequencies that are invisible to others. When someone is acting rather than being real, you can tell. The gap between sincere interest and deliberate deception is palpable. You are able to discern between manipulative withholding and appropriate boundaries. When someone is acting more like their wounded child than their integrated adult self, you can tell. These are natural talents that have been honed by your experiences rather than acquired capabilities. The problem with possessing such sophisticated judgment is that, in a society where most individuals function behind masks and personalities, it might make you feel alone. You long for genuine connection, yet it's hard to find. Deep communication is what you want, yet most people are afraid of it. Although most people are too preoccupied with performing to fully perceive anyone else's reality, you want to be seen and known. Many chosen ones deal with this paradox. The more healed you become, the less tolerant you are of dysfunction. The more real you become, the more false everyone else appears. And the more mindful you become, the narrower your social circle gets. This is the inevitable result of spiritual development. It is not conceit. You're aligning yourself with what works best for you, and what doesn't, rather than passing judgment. Your entire life has been shaped by this discernment, preparing you for a degree of responsibility that calls for someone who is unflappable, unbuyable, and unaffected by distractions from their purpose. You were here to build new structures, not to fit into pre-existing ones, which is why you felt like you didn't belong anyplace. You're here to pioneer alternative answers, which is why traditional methods have seemed restrictive. Your soul realized that these structures were not made with your frequency in mind, which is why you have questioned every system, tradition, and rule you feel obligated to breach. You were not destined to color inside the lines created by those who never thought you would exist. You were created to completely broaden the canvas and demonstrate to others that there are ways to be that they never thought were possible. Your experience of loneliness was vital because it allowed you to connect with your inner wisdom without being distracted by the expectations and projections of others. You learned things in that seclusion that are only revealed in quiet. Parts of yourself that only come out when you're not performing in front of an audience were accessible to you. You made contact with a source of wisdom that communicates in whispers rather than yells. This inner direction has been guiding you toward everything that is in line with your mission and away from anything that would jeopardize your integrity. Each door that shut was shielding you from a way that would have made you less. Your spirit was wrong for every possibility that didn't feel right. Your trip was never intended to include someone who couldn't manage your genuineness. The universe is incredibly accurate, planning experiences and interactions with surgical precision. Your life hasn't been random at all. Every obstacle made you stronger for the challenges ahead. Every triumph set you up for bigger successes. Every setback taught you that everything but your inner self is transient, and every success demonstrated what it's like to be truly abundant. However, most individuals overlook the fact that divine timing involves more than simply external events coming together. It also involves your own preparation reaching a critical mass. Before opening the next chapter of your life, the universe has been waiting for you to gain unwavering self-awareness, impenetrable boundaries, and resistance to manipulation. Your delays weren't punishments. Rather, they served as a safeguard against opportunities that would have overwhelmed you before you had the spiritual fortitude to deal with them. Glowing star, if you want to witness God's miracles, act now. Contribute $100 or more through Super Thank You on YouTube. Your offering is like a seed that comes back to you when planted. Let His light illuminate your steps. Every donation is an echo in His plan. Think about all the relationships that ended when you thought they were just getting started, all the employment opportunities that suddenly fell through, and all the plans that failed no matter how hard you tried. These weren't mistakes. Rather, they were adjustments made by a pre-intelligence that was much more advanced than your conscious knowledge. The universe was protecting you from choices that would have weakened your light, tainted your moral character, or diverted your attention from your actual mission. For selected ones, realizing that their entire life has been a meticulously planned initiation procedure is the most profound epiphany. Being misunderstood taught you to stop looking for approval from people who weren't supposed to understand your frequency. Being betrayed taught you who to trust. Being disappointed taught you where to put your hope. And being alone taught you how to find strength within yourself. At this point, the solitary preparation phase is coming to a close, and the connected action phase is starting, marking a turning point in your life. You are going to be discovered by those who have been looking for someone just like you. You're about to see the opportunities that align with your frequency. You are about to have access to the materials you require for your task. However, this shift necessitates that you take full responsibility for your power, to stop denying your intensity, and to stop trying to minimize yourself for the sake of others. The universe is getting ready to increase your impact, but you have to be prepared to fully inhabit your own existence first. No more faking, hiding, or playing parts that don't align with your own self. When you embrace who you really are, the attraction that attracts others will grow stronger. Some will want to work with you, some will want to learn from you, and some will just want to see what happens when someone lives totally in line with their purpose. However, you need to be ready for the accountability that accompanies this degree of power. You will be the target of people's deepest worries and hopes. They will either blame you for their stagnation or want you to be their savior. They will want you to defend their decisions or provide an explanation for your own. They will insist on having access to your time, energy, and insight as though they were public assets rather than priceless gifts that you freely provide. As your influence increases, the Pleiadian phenomenon deepens, posing problems that most people never expect. Some will vilify you, ascribe malevolent intent to your most innocent deeds. Others will idolize you, elevating you to a level that prevents real connection. Their incapacity to view you as a whole human being instead of a representation of their own spiritual potential or shortcomings is the root cause of both reactions. Because worship feels like approval. It is frequently more damaging than demonization. When someone idolizes you, they are projecting their own unrealized potential onto your life rather than seeing you in person. They want you to stay flawless, unalterable, and constantly ready to motivate others without ever having motivation yourself. This sets an unachievable expectation that will unavoidably result in disappointment. Even if it hurts, the demonization is frequently more truthful when you show your humanity. When someone criticizes you, they are typically angry at themselves for not living up to the standard you set. Their critique exposes their own fears of taking charge of their spiritual development, as well as their own insecurities and unfulfilled goals. Knowing this relationship enables you to shield yourself from your critics' projections, while yet having empathy for them. Whether this effect turns out to be a benefit or a burden will depend on your capacity to set limits without feeling guilty, to refuse requests without giving a reason, and to keep your peace without feeling sorry. Your greatest strengths will now be the same traits that made you feel alone: your ease with solitude, your independence from other people's viewpoints, and your preference for the truth over popularity. The reality that started with you feeling too different, too intense, or too much is going to change into one that is perfectly prepared for an effect never seen before. Every time you wondered why you couldn't just be regular, it was a reminder that being normal was never your job. Every time someone felt misunderstood, it served as a prelude to understanding them on a level they don't comprehend themselves. What started out as a hardship becomes a blessing, not only for you, but for everyone whose life you will touch with your special frequency of honesty. The loneliness becomes leadership, the isolation becomes inspiration, the difference becomes distinction, and the circle is completing itself. This is your recognition moment. You were never flawed, incorrect, or excessive. Every event prepared you to carry a purpose that could only be carried by someone who refused to fit into restrictions that were never intended for you. You were always just what the world needed, showing up at the correct time. When you give $100, not only we bear witness, but the sky bears witness. You are now one of those who are a bridge to heaven. You now know what they're truly seeing, but the hunger in their eyes will still be there when they gaze at you. They're seeing their own capacity for depth, their own potential for development, and their own ability for genuine life. Not only are you living your life, but you are also setting an example for what life might be like when one chooses truth over approval, courage over comfort, and purpose over popularity. As the chosen one, stand in the entirety of your identity. You were not made for shallow waters or little stages by the universe. All of your experiences have equipped you for profound effects that will last for generations. The loneliness is coming to an end. The mission has begun. And now that you've finally recalled why you're here, the world will never be the same.